Hey everyone. My favorite scene is the "you bow to no one" moment from The Return of the King. Everything is perfect, from the music to Aragorn's humility, with the entire kingdom bowing down to the hobbits and their startled expressions, except for Pippin, who is enjoying himself. It always makes me emotional every time I watch it, whether it's the whole movie or a 1-minute clip. A close second is Mufasa's death. Story 1. I cried during the charge of Rohan in The Return of the King. I also cried when the main character in Hacksaw Ridge kept praying to God to let him help injured soldiers to safety. Please God, just one more. I want to cry thinking about it. Story 2. The end scene of Gladiator features the main character in a field of wheat and tall grass, where he is reunited with his family in the afterlife. Story 3. Titanic, although it oddly has nothing to do with romance, made me cry twice while watching it, and I typically don't cry for anything. The first time was when the Titanic set sail. The music played, and you could see those glorious pistons at work. Something about it made me emotional. I think I must have unresolved feelings about engines. The second time was when the band started to play "Nearer My God to Thee," showing a compilation of people dying in different parts of the boat. The moment that affected me the most was when the men shoveling coal ran for their lives as the engines flooded. The fact that they feel so forgotten in history, despite their importance in making this majestic ship function, deeply moved me. Story 4. It begins with Hector crying, expressing his desire to go home after realizing he was murdered. Miguel then tries to get his great-grandmother to remember Hector. Story 5. Interstellar depicts a poignant moment when Cooper returns from the ocean world after 23 years of time dilation. He watches videos that his children sent him of their lives without him. Although I am not a father, I can understand the bittersweet pain and joy a dad would feel upon seeing that his children are alive and well after such a long absence. It must be heart-wrenching to know that they managed to survive without him, believing that he abandoned them, when in reality he was on a critical mission to save their future. Despite all the pain and sadness, being on that mission is where he needs to be as their father. A dad protects his children no matter the circumstances. The portrayal of this moment by Matthew McConaughey truly does it justice. It's one of the few instances in film that made me weep openly. Story 6. End of Saving Private Ryan. Tell me I'm a good man. The weight of that question was overwhelming. Story 7. The movie Big Fish with Ewan McGregor will leave your eyes a little wet by the end. It is a great Father's Day movie. Story 8. As soon as I saw this title, I knew what I wanted to post, and it was exactly what you mentioned. Well done on your commendable taste. The other alternative for me is in Forrest Gump, when Forrest discovers he and Jenny have a son. His first question is he smart or is he? Gesturing to himself, showing that he is painfully aware of his own limitations. Despite that, it never stopped him, and his first thought is concern for his son. Truly heartbreaking. Story 9. The end of Shawshank Redemption, when Morgan Freeman talks about how he misses his friend, gets me every time. Story 10. Give me money. Give me power. Give me anything my heart desires. I want my father back, you coward. Story 11. Aragorn comforting Boromir at the end of the Fellowship moves me more and more as I get older. There is something about it. Story 12. I don't have manly tears. You know what makes me cry? When Littlefoot's mom dies in The Land Before Time. I will never recover from that, even to this day. Story 13. The Ride of the Rohirrim scene in The Return of the King resonates with me. The Odin clashing the spears of his men tells them that some will die, but they are doing a noble deed. The cacophony of death affects me deeply, and the advance where no one overtakes the Odin is striking. It's just so raw, awe-inspiring, and in a way, beautiful. I absolutely love it. Another powerful scene is the melee in All Quiet on the Western Front. It's heartbreaking to watch two men who do not want to kill each other do so anyway. When Peter breaks down after realizing what he has done, it is painful to consider how many men were forced into such a situation. Story 14. Michael Corleone was at the hospital, assuring his ailing father, "I'm with you now." When he realized assassins were on the way and his father was set up for an easy kill, the smile of pride on Don Vito's face was evident. Story 15. Life is Beautiful. It is the only movie that can make me cry. If you have children, this movie will resonate deeply with you. Story 16. The movie Click features Adam Sandler. It tells the story of a father who is trying to provide for his family while struggling to find a balance between work and family time. He seeks a promotion to improve their lives but often prioritizes work over his loved ones. At the end, as he faces his mortality, he runs to his adult son, realizing the importance of family. In his final moments, he passionately urges his son to choose family over work. Story 17. Mine was Hacksaw Ridge. When I thought he was done for, I was all in. The theater felt like a prayer. Lord, just let him get one more chance. That movie truly impacted me. Story 18. Armageddon. I cannot watch that movie because I start crying uncontrollably. Even now, as I write this, just thinking about it makes my eyes fill up. That movie and soundtrack are like my kryptonite. Story 19. When Doc tells Wyatt, "If you were ever my friend, if you ever had the slightest feeling for me, leave now." Story 20. Chernobyl, where the plant exploded and ash was falling. There was a father in the background begging people to take his infant daughter to safety. Movies, television, and media never evoked emotions in me until I became a dad. Story 21. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 had me in tears for much of the movie. The themes of friendship and the connection with the raccoon were touching. The end of Harry Potter was also emotional. There are moments in Django Unchained that might have brought tears but also made my hair stand on end, energizing me. I'll make it funny for you. I just watched Man on Fire, where the reunion at the end, after he saves the girl's life, is powerful, and then he rides off into the sunset. Story 22. It Has to Be Marley and Me. Every little boy who has a dog of their own growing up, who was there to witness some of the biggest milestones in life and formed a special and unique bond, understands just how hard it is to lose that dog. It's like losing a piece of yourself. That movie never fails to make me tear up when Marley goes over the Rainbow Bridge. Story 23. The End of Godfather 2. Michael has outsmarted all his foes, saved his family from assassins, eliminated all threats to his supreme hold on power, and tied up all loose ends. He stands victorious. However, he has permanently lost his chance for a genuine, honest, loving relationship with his wife and children. He has destroyed the family entrusted to him by his father by murdering his gullible older brother out of paranoia. He has eliminated all his political and criminal opponents, but no one could prevent him from acquiring anything in the first place because he wants and needs nothing anymore in this life. He has even killed his most loyal followers to establish fear and send a message. In the end, we see him with his eyes wide open, the same open eyes that allowed him to outsmart his enemies and stay alive, reflecting in silence on everything. What was it for? Story 24. Mystic River. When Jimmy Markham discovers his daughter's death and is not allowed to see her body. Story 25. Ladder 49. As a former essential worker, the ending of that movie affects me every time when his wife receives the notification and the scenes from the funeral. Story 26. I can't believe no one has said it yet. The President's speech from Independence Day. You will once again be fighting for our freedom, not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on, we're going to survive. Today we celebrate our Independence Day. Story 27. A man named Otto resonated with me the other day. I saw a lot of my grandfather, my father, and myself in him. Story 28. In the ending of Schindler's List, Oscar realizes that even relatively mundane items could have been traded for the lives of others, and how trivial the value of items is compared to the value of human life. Story 29. The Patriot sees his daughter, who never speaks, running after her father, crying, Don't go, Papa. A cartoonish amount of tears spills from my eyes at that scene every time. Story 30. In Onward, the young elf makes a mistake with a spell and misses the opportunity to spend a day with his father. Story 31. The End of the Green Mile. Dorothy sings Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Anytime a broken home finds peace to the point that children accept a new father figure in their lives for the right reasons and the family flourishes. Granted, that last one could appear in many children's films or even soap operas rather than more adult-themed shows or films. But when done right, it can truly melt my heart, as I have had many bad experiences, and so have many friends. There is no need for much heartache. And whenever children can feel safe and loved after something tragic, horrific, or otherwise challenging, it is always something I like to see. It often brings a tear to my eye. Story 32. The Notebook is romantic and reminds me of the innocence during my first relationship. Story 33. Now and then when Crazy Pete says, "They were my family." Angus when Grandpa doesn't get up for reveille. Inside Out when Bing Bong says goodbye. Toy Story 3 when Andy drives away. Story 34. I have two moments. When Gus dies in Lonesome Dove and when they lose the state championship at the end of Friday Night Lights. Story 35. This might be super niche, but the ending of the movie Luca makes me cry almost every time. I absolutely love the score of the entire film, and the build-up at the end is just perfect. The emotional impact creates the perfect storm for a few tears. Story 36. When Leonidas leaves for what he and his wife know will be his last battle, he can't show emotion or embrace her as he wishes due to his culture's attitude toward masculinity. When I first watched the movie, it felt like a glorification of that attitude, but on rewatch, I think it's more of a critique. Story 37. The end of Vanilla Sky has always moved me. When Tom Cruise jumps off the building and a flashback of his life appears, the sad music combined with the memories deeply affects me. Even as a teenager, I would tear up watching it. It resonates even more now that I have children and the flashbacks show him playing as a child. Story 38. I weep when G-Baby dies in Hardball, and then I weep again when he shares the story of hitting the walk-off single to win the championship at the ceremony. Now I'm tearing up while writing this. Story 39. Toy Story 2? Maybe 3. When they are in the incinerator and accept their fate, knowing they are going to die, they stop trying to escape, look at one another, and hold hands. I lost it. Story 40. Iron Claw. I used to be a brother, but I'm not a brother anymore. I lost my brother when I was 10. That line turned my eyes into a fountain. Story 41. The first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire includes the scene where Uncle Ben dies. Now that I am a father, the opening scene in A Quiet Place really resonates with me. Story 42. The end of Philadelphia, at the memorial service where they are playing old home movies of Tom Hanks as a child. Story 43. Imagine you have a lovely 10-year-old daughter, but then you must go on a mission to save Earth. After doing your part, you return after what feels like months for you, but it's been 64 years for your daughter. She says, "No parent should have to watch their own child die. I have my kids here for me now. You go." Story 44. There are a few moments that stand out to me. The ending of the TV series 6 Feet Under. The scene you mentioned, the way Viggo delivers that line is powerful. The moment in Gladiator when he reunites with his family. The ending of the Last Kingdom movie. I still think about these scenes from time to time. I wish I could forget them and experience them again, even if it means shedding a tear or two. Story 45. Dragonheart's ending, sorry to say. The French actor dubbing Draco is much better than Sean Connery and affects me every time. Story 46. Rocky 2, when Adrian comes out of the coma and says, "There's one thing I want you to do for me. Win." Cue the music and Mickey shouting, "Well, what are we waiting for?" Love it. Story 47. The last scene of The Iron Claw, where Zac Efron's character was talking to his kids. He says to them, "I used to be a brother." It emotionally affected me in the theater. I had literal tears, a quivering chin, and a feeling of heaviness in my chest. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It came out earlier this year. Story 48. Tiny Tim's death in Muppets Christmas Carol is still one of the most heartbreaking scenes of profound sadness, performed by a fuzzy pig and a frog. Story 49, Conan the Barbarian, 1982, features a scene where he immolates his love on a funeral pyre atop a hill. His friends, Akiro the wizard and Subotai the archer, stand back and watch. Subotai is weeping. Akiro asks, "Why do you cry?" Subotai responds, "He is Conan, a Cimmerian. He won't cry, so I cry for him. I tear up every time." Story 50. Green Mile when John Coffey has to ride the lightning. "Please, boss. Please don't make me go into the dark. I'm afraid of the dark." Story 51. Adam Sandler's character rewinds to the last time he heard his father say, "I love you, son." He watches as a past version of himself ignores the message and goes to work. He continues to rewind until the scene ends. Story 52. The cinematic still here from League of Legends features music that enhances the story, which combines three narratives into one. The overarching theme centers on a character known as Kindred, representing death. Kindred consists of two characters, Wolf and Lamb, representing the dual aspects of death. Lamb approaches those whose time has come and delivers a single lethal arrow. If they accept their fate, the end is swift, as the arrow strikes a fatal blow. In contrast, Wolf aggressively pursues those who resist accepting their death, resulting in a brutal and painful end. As mentioned, there are three stories. The first story does not resonate with me, but the second and third do. The second story involves a powerful fighter who has mastered a specific fighting technique. We see him as an elderly man, weary from a lifetime of conflict and killing. He is reluctant to use this wind technique because it often results in death. However, in this scene, he faces an unavoidable situation. Bandits are attacking his village, leaving him with no choice. He dismantles the raiding bandits without killing any of them, even saving one from a hail of arrows by using his wind technique to push him out of harm's way. After this act, he lifts his gaze toward the incoming arrows, closing his eyes. Among them is Lamb's arrow, flying directly toward him. The third story follows a man with a unique curse. He is nearly unkillable and possesses undying rage. A skilled fighter, he finds himself in a dire situation, lying on the ground surrounded by approaching enemies. When he awakens, he is in the death realm, where Kindred has come for him, unaware of his curse. It becomes a contest between the force of death and this indomitable warrior. Wolf and Lamb work in tandem to defeat him but are ultimately unsuccessful. Confused, they eventually retreat, and the scene shifts back from the death realm to the real world, where it is implied that he fought against all the warriors encircling him, leaving the ground strewn with corpses. This might seem like another action animation if you are unaware of the background stories, but with that knowledge, there is significant depth to the narrative. Story 53. The ending of Troy when Brad Pitt as Achilles is cremated always brings a tear to my eye. It was a climactic way to go out. Another impactful film is The Namesake. In it, the boy's father dies, and he returns to his house, walking in his father's shoes and feeling the emptiness of his loss. He cries out for him, and it's a powerful moment in that scene. Story 54. Funny. Mine is also Return of the King, but it's the Ride of the Rohirrim. Everything about that scene is amazing. Story 55. The ending of Saving Private Ryan affects me every time. His hope that the exchange was worth it is profound. Story 56. Most recently, when the last brother died in the Iron Claw, I cried. The first time a movie made me cry uncontrollably was in Hachi, A Dog's Tale. The ending was difficult for me as a child. Story 57. In Everything Everywhere All at Once, the mother says, "I just wanted someone to do laundry and taxes with." Story 58. The Notebook. I know it's shocking. When Noah tells the children that he can't leave her because she's his sweetheart, it used to make my eyes watery. But now, after watching my grandma go through dementia, it really affects me. Story 59. When the boy Travis puts down his dog, Old Yeller, because he has rabies, the Heisman acceptance speech in Something for Joey, The home run and final fade out with a son and father playing catch in The Natural. Dad, do you want to have a catch? The return of the father in Sounder. My friends, you bow to no one. Gale Sayers' tribute speech for Brian Piccolo in Brian's Song. The eulogy and amazing grace on the pipes in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. The final scene of Schindler's List, where the survivors honor his grave. Story 60, Inside Out. Several moments stand out, such as Pin Pong's death, Joy finally breaking down and crying, and Riley being honest with her parents. They accept and hug her like the loving parents they are. Story 61. The scene towards the end of Fathers and Daughters, when you actually see him die, was very impactful. Also, Dear Zachary, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If not, watch it before it gets spoiled for you. I was emotional throughout the whole movie, but that particular scene left me feeling odd for the rest of the day. I highly recommend both. Story 62. The Fox and the Hound depict Copper protecting Todd from the old man, even after hunting him down, and they are never able to be friends again. Story 63. Agreed on your point. After watching all 3 movies, that scene hits incredibly hard. The other moment that resonates with me is Rohan's charge onto the Polenar fields. Theoden's speech, The Chance of Death, and Theoden's call to charge truly inspire me. It calls to the idea of a hero's death. Story 64. Strangely enough, the scene where Michael dies in the parking lot outside the hospital deeply resonates with me. I lost my dad at a young age, so it always impacts me. Story 65. I think the only time I ever cried during a movie was when Bruce Willis pulled the trigger in Armageddon. Thank you, Brett Ratner, for making me feel. Story 66. The story begins with Up, where the newlyweds have a happy life, but then discover they cannot have children, and eventually, she passes away, leaving him alone. Additionally, the ending of Endgame features the death of Iron Man, who was my Marvel hero. Since losing my father, many things trigger me now. Story 67. Yondu Udanta and his funeral, he deserved better. You know, Michael Rooker nailed that character when someone we were supposed to dislike received so much fan support. Story 68. The little girl in the pink coat from Schindler's List. Seeing that pink coat on that pile of clothing made me feel emotional and brought me to tears. Story 69. At the end of Schindler's List, Schindler is running away and has a breakdown, reflecting on all the people he could have saved if he had tried harder. Anything with Liam Neeson has the power to bring me to tears. Story 70. Interstellar. The video call from Murph to Cooper after the water planet regarding the watch. Also, when you learn how long Romilly was on that ship while they were on the water planet. Story 71. End of the Field of Dreams. I lost my dad during my senior year of high school. I went to college in Iowa, having been born and raised on the East Coast. At one point, I went to Dyersville with my dad's glove and sat in the parking lot, silently crying for half an hour before driving back to my apartment. Story 72. In Nausicaa of the Valley of the Winds, near the end, Nausicaa finds the tortured and screaming Omu baby that is being used as a lure. It is the same one she once held as her pet, but it was taken from her. The Omu is free from its chains and is raging, its eyes burning red. Nausicaa tries to push it back because it is on its way to stampede straight into the acid sea. The Omu pushes onward, and Nausicaa's boot is dragged backward into the sea, burning her foot with acid. She screams in pain while still holding firm against the Omu and not letting go to save herself. You can see the Omu registering her pain, its red eyes fading to blue. It stops pushing and moves back slightly. Then it investigates her seared foot and heals it with its radiant tendrils. They cry together. Pulls my heart out every time. Story 73. Scent of a Woman features a significant scene near the end and its culmination. In Dead Poets Society, the "Oh Captain, My Captain" ending scene is memorable. Rocky Balboa includes a powerful moment when he leaves the arena, leading into the end credits. In Serendipity, there is a heartfelt scene when John Cusack sees Kate Beckinsale at the rink, and they approach each other. Story 74. The scene in The Whale, where he tries to reconcile with his daughter, is impactful. Additionally, the second to last episode of Bluey features Bandit selling the house. Story 75. The scene from Toy Story 2, when the girl who owns Jessie is growing up and moving away from her childhood toys to teenage girl items, makes me emotional every time I think about my daughters growing up. Story 76. Some guarantees are in Rudy when all the players turn their jerseys in for Rudy to have a spot on the team and when he actually takes the field. Also in John Q when his son runs out and flexes as he is driven away in the police car. Every time, without fail, these moments affect me deeply. Story 77. It's never the sad moments that really get to me. It's the heroic and happy reunions that cause my eyes to scrunch up and some tears to flow. Think of the portals. On your left, from Endgame. Story 78. In Rogue One. When Chirrut walks into the middle of the battlefield with nothing to protect him but his faith, the magnitude of his bravery is striking. He isn't force-sensitive, doesn't have a blaster, and can't even see, yet he doesn't hesitate to step out of cover and march into what he knows will likely lead to his death because at that moment the universe needs him. Story 79. Passion of the Christ. I am already in tears because of what I have seen so far. Then the flogging happens. He is beaten to a pulp with blow after blow on his back. Finally, relieved that it is over, the centurion orders him to be turned over so they can get his front as well. Story 80. Whenever we rewatched The Lion King at home while growing up, my mum would leave the living room during the scene leading up to Mufasa's death. She could never sit through it. Story 81. There is a Polish movie called Korczak that came out in 1990. It is a true story about a man named Janusz Korczak who ran a Jewish orphanage in early 20th century Poland. During the Nazi occupation, he was given numerous opportunities to escape, but he refused to abandon his children. Eventually, he and his children were sent to the death camps. The final scenes, where all the children and Mr. Korczak himself are herded into cattle wagons to be taken to the death camps, are very hard to watch. Afterward, you see them in an eerily dreamlike slow-motion sequence fleeing to safety after their cattle wagon detaches, even though the reality is that they were all killed at the death camp in Treblinka before World War II ended. I have to admit that my heart was in my throat during those scenes. The ending scenes I am referring to start at around 1 hour and 45 minutes and 32 seconds. Story 82. Creed tells Rocky he has to prove he wasn't a mistake, and then Gonna Fly Now starts playing in the background as the last round begins. Story 83. A few days ago, I watched Field of Dreams for the first time in many years. My dad passed away a few years ago, and the end of this movie had me crying. Hey Dad, you want to have a catch? Story 84. It may be too late to comment, but there is one observation I have not encountered after scrolling for a while. The conclusion of Man on the Moon occurs when Andy realizes that the strange treatment is meaningless and that he is deceased. The scene then transitions to the funeral, followed by the video of him singing. It's quite emotional. Story 85. Are TV shows allowed too? If yes, then for me it's the final scene of Magnum P.I. Season 6, Episode 6, Going Home. When Magnum visits his family in Tidewater, he briefly mentions his half-brother Joey, who was killed in action in Vietnam. Magnum had also argued with his stepfather, but in the end, they reconciled. His stepfather told him, I guess you think I'm a real jerk where Joey's concerned. Don't deny it, I've been doing that myself for a lot of years. You never could tell that boy anything. And then said, come back next year, I'll take you up for a ride, since he was a pilot. In the final scene, accompanied by Joe Cocker's rendition of Bob Dylan's I Shall Be Released in the background, Magnum visits the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. We see that his brother's name on the memorial wall is near the end of the memorial, as the names of the fallen were added in chronological order of the dates they were killed in action. This means he almost made it back home. Magnum then says, goodbye, Joey. This scene has always been a tearjerker for me. Story 86. Tony, look at me. We are going to be okay. You can rest now. All he wanted was to rest. He saved the universe at the expense of finally having what he desired. Maybe I should take a page out of Barton's book. Build Pepper a farm and hope nobody blows it up. Story 87. I just wanted to chime in to say that The Lord of the Rings gives men many opportunities to cry genuine tears. I cried multiple times during the entire trilogy. Story 88. That scene in World's Greatest Dad had such an impact on me that I had to pause the movie and finish watching it later. Story 89. You have forgotten who you are, and you have forgotten me. Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life. Story 90. An older Michael Keaton movie called My Life, 1993. As the story winds down at the end of the film, I became emotional. If you watch it, you will understand. Story 91. Not a movie, but the scene in True Detective where Woody Harrelson's family visits him in the hospital. Story 92. The end of Big Fish is a fantastic movie, and the ending is beautiful. It brought my wife and me to tears. Story 93. Homeward Bound gets me every time. It starts out happy when Sassy and Chance appear over the hill, running to the kids. Then, there is that long pause, waiting and hoping that Shadow didn't make it. Then he comes into view. Story 94. Blind Side. When Big Mike says to Sandra Bullock, "I've never had one before," she replies, "What, a room to yourself?" He responds, "A bed." Then she goes into the other room to compose herself. Story 95. The movie Phenomenon features a scene where John Travolta is being shaved by his love interest. That scene brings me to tears. Story 96. Moonlight, when Tyrone's mother apologizes to him at the rehabilitation center and tells him she loves him. As someone who lived through an abusive childhood, it hit really hard. Story 97. At least 3 separate scenes in Maquia. When the promised flower blooms, especially the ending, are impactful. While it mentioned movies and not television shows, the ending of the miniseries Now and Then, Here and There is beautiful and heartbreaking all at once, and it always leaves me feeling emotional. Story 98. The climax of Big Fish was the hardest I've ever cried at anything in my life. I'm not even that close with my dad, and he's nothing like Edward Sr. Story 99. For Frodo, especially when the first to follow Aragorn are Merry and Pippin. They are not soldiers. They have been through hell and are not even certain that Frodo is still alive, but they are willing to face certain death to help their friend. Story 100. I know this isn't a movie, but in the series The Last of Us, Episode 3 with Bill and Frank, I rewatched it for the 3rd time with my girlfriend and totally cried when they got married. Story 101. Someone already mentioned the end of the gladiator scene. I will add the end of the crow scene. When Eric returns to his grave and Shelley appears, the music, Shelley, and the rest of their souls after what happened to them is very touching. Story 102. Many scenes from The Lord of the Rings include Sam following Frodo and almost drowning, Aragorn comforting Boromir as he dies, Sam and Frodo on the slopes of Mount Doom, the charge of the Rohirrim, Sam's speech at the end of The Two Towers, and Faramir's death. These are all powerful moments. Story 103. Babe has just herded the sheep into the pen at the sheepdog trials. There are so many emotions. You feel proud and cheer for the pig. You roll your eyes at yourself for getting so invested in this pig's adventure. Babe demonstrates gritty determination. Farmer Hackett stands in front of the whole sheepdog community, showing faith in his pig, despite the scorn of everyone. Mrs. Hackett faints from the embarrassment her husband has caused her. The dog running to learn the secret words builds tension, and when that pig asks the sheep to step forward in pairs, it's overwhelming every single time. Story 104. Legends of the Fall unfolds when Brad Pitt's character returns from his travels to find his father, played by Anthony Hopkins, disabled from a stroke. It is gut-wrenching. Story 105. I will add one. Empire of the Sun. When Christian Bale's character finally finds his parents at the end, he has that vacant stare. Story 106. I shed a tear for most of the ones mentioned here, but the one that gets me every time is in the movie A Silent Voice, when Shuko apologizes in front of the hospital. Story 107. Coda is about a girl whose parents attend her singing performance, and she looks around to see if she is doing well. I told my wife that this movie better not be sad. At 1 hour and 45 minutes, I am struggling to hold back tears. Story 108. Ash gets between Mew and Mutwo and turns to stone while Pikachu tries to wake him up. They remade the first movie in 3D, and the echoes of Pikachu crying truly affected me. Holy cow. Story 109. When Rocky goes the distance, Adrian and Rocky confess their love to each other at the end of Rocky 1. Story 110. The ending of Braveheart features Robert the Bruce's plea, accompanied by James Horner's swelling score and narration. In the year of our Lord 1314, patriots of Scotland, starving and outnumbered, charged the fields at Bannockburn. They fought like warrior poets. They fought like Scotsmen. And they won their freedom. Story 111. I always tear up when the genie is finally freed in Aladdin and after Iago wakes up at the end of the sequel when Jafar turns into skeletal fireworks. Story 112. The Patriot. When Benjamin Martin grabs the flag from the retreating line and advances back to the front, waves it in all its glory. Story 113. Not sure what the masculine part has to do with it. I cried through half of Everything Everywhere all at once. It was a strange experience, as I was simultaneously laughing. Language. Seriously. Story 114. In the Fellowship of the Ring, when Sam almost drowns trying to catch up with Frodo, he tells Frodo how he made a promise to Gandalf. I don't know why, but that scene resonates with me more as I get older. Story 115. The end of For Love of the Game. Kevin Costner helps John C. Riley to bed and then expresses everything in his hotel room. It gets me every time. Story 116. The Last Samurai, when the general is dying in Tom Cruise's arms, tells him that all the cherry blossoms are perfect. Perfect. They're all perfect. Story 117. She gave me 3 from the same movie series. The sheer boyishness of his request and his appreciation of her generosity is touching. The appreciation of beauty, both internal and external, gets me every time. I need a new screen protector. This one is too blurry. Story 118. In the scene from The Best Years of Our Lives, a Navy veteran who lost his hands demonstrates to his girlfriend how he prepares for bed after removing his hooks. He shares his fears about being unable to escape if a breeze closes the door. He no longer wants to marry her, feeling it would burden her with the responsibility of taking care of him, even dressing him. He has been distant, avoiding physical affection and romance. However, in this moment, she hugs him, and he gradually returns the embrace with his stumps. The camera zooms in on her face, which lights up at his touch, revealing the longing she has been experiencing. The actress deserves an Academy Award for that scene alone. Their hug is incredibly moving, and I still feel a tightness in my throat when I watch it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.